Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of Southbury to order, and as we usually do, ask everyone to rise to pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, we have two presentations this evening. We'd like to call Geraldine Hoyt and Tim Baldwin forward. And we, just to remind you, we did approve the local emergency medical services plan a while ago, but we got some feedback there that although the content was good, the format needed to be changed. We emailed that out to all of the board members. So Geraldine and Tim are here if there are any additional questions on this report before, and then we'll have a resolution that I'd like to add. Actually, I probably need a motion here to add that to old business to authorize me to approve this plan on behalf of the town of Southbury. But they're here to answer any questions, and then I'll be presenting them with something special. But any questions on the report that we distributed? Again, I think the email said there really wasn't anything new in there other than the format. So with that, if we could bring up the letter that we received, and I'd like to present to Tim and to Geraldine this certificate that we got for, once again, being a heart-safe community. Want to get that right? Wanted to thank you for your efforts on this. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Geraldine. And I'll give it to you, but I think we'd love to put it and replace the one that's up here to say
Love you to do that.
current. I'll take it right back. Okay, with that, it was my pleasure last week to present our initial or our current version of our budget to the residents of Heritage Village, and I was joined in doing that with Regina Botsford, our new superintendent of Region 15, and I thought it was an excellent presentation about our region, and that's something that's very important, I think, to all of the board members to understand this very vital part of our community, Region 15, the schools, and capabilities that we have, and what it brings to the community. So I asked her if she'd be willing to come tonight and present that very similar presentation, and I hope you'll see the work that we're doing there to maintain our excellence in Region 15, while at the same time Regina's trying to be as mindful of the fiscal capability of this community. I would add that I, for one, feel we need to think not just about maintaining what we have, but of improving and excelling if our community, our country, is going to be able to compete on a global basis. So although what you're going to see here is how we maintain our current position, I think we need to be thinking longer term about what we can do to actually even further improve the education we provide for our children. As I say, it's investing in our future. They're the ones who are going to be paying for our retirements. So with that, I'd ask Regina to come forward, and my pleasure to introduce you. I think all the board members have met Regina. But any place you want. You hear the buzz ring?
Yes.
So, good evening to the selectmen and to the members of the public who are here. Thank you very much for having me. I was appointed superintendent in July. I took over my duties on October 1st, and I have been very warmly welcomed here in Southbury. It is my new home, both personally and professionally, so thank you so much for having me. Before I start going through the budget presentation, it's important to understand the process. And as a brief summary, I presented my recommended budget to the Board of Education on February 24th. Since then, the board has had two public workshop meetings. Thank you, that's wonderful. The board has had 2 public workshop meetings. The purpose of workshop meetings is to give the board an opportunity to delve deeply into the budget so that the board then comes up with its recommended proposed budget. The board will be presenting its proposed budget this coming Monday night, that's March 24th, at the open public board meeting. So please come out and listen or tune in on TV. The budget then goes to a public hearing and goes up for a vote for adoption by the board on April 7th. So what I will be showing you tonight is the most recent update of my proposed budget reflecting the board's conversation to this point. The numbers that I'm showing you are not necessarily final, but it's the most current information that I can share with you. So stay tuned or come on to the meeting Monday night at the high school, 7:30. Thank you. I need to develop like an ear pull or something. So certainly as a school district, our mission is educating students. That is what we exist for. That is what drives us. You see in our mission statement that we are committed to excellence and that our decision-making is based on the best interest of students. It's very important for us to consider this budget as an investment in the future, not only of our children, but as Ed mentioned earlier, in the future of our citizenry going forward. It's my job as the leader of the school district to make decisions in the best interest of our children, and it is also my job to tax and to spend wisely and responsibly, and I believe that this budget does that. So how many of you remember classrooms like the one on the left? Don't be shy. Oh, come on, there must be more hands out there. Well, there you go, I see some hands. I certainly remember sitting in a classroom like the one on the left. The desks were arranged in rows, everybody faced front, everybody listened to the teacher and tried very hard to remember what the teacher told or taught, okay? We live in a new world. Technology is increasingly changing our world. It's increasingly changing our students' capacities and increasing their capacities for deep and meaningful learning. Students are being asked to do much more critical thinking, deep thinking, to work with each other and to consider different perspectives and complex topics. They need to work together, sometimes in small groups, sometimes in large groups, and very often increasingly with technology. It's a new world out there, and it's beginning to change and increasingly changing how our classrooms look and what's required educationally for our children. Next slide. Thank you. There's data from the Department of Education that says that by the time our kindergartners enter the workforce, 50% of the jobs that they take will not yet even exist. That's how fast the world of work is changing, and we have to be on the forefront so that we can prepare our children not based on what we knew and what we understood as teaching and learning in our classrooms in the past, but we have to prepare them for what their future will bring. So I spoke about seeing education as an investment in the future of our children and in the future of our citizenry. When we think about investment, we have a right to ask, and we should ask about our return on investment. And that's what these next few slides are about. As I was thinking about putting this series of slides together, I thought about entitling them Value Added, by any measure a success, exclamation point. Regardless of the title, I think you'll see that we have very much to be proud of here in Region 15. So you'll see in our SAT scores, we consistently outscore the state and the nation. In advanced placement exams, those are that's college level coursework that students can take in high school. Getting a score of 3 or higher in most colleges will give you credit for the college course at the college level. So that's the standard of review, is to get a score of 3 or higher. And our percentage of students taking the test who do score at that level, again, outpace those of the state and of the global data as well. And in a recent ranking, we were ranked in the top 16% of districts in the state of Connecticut based on the results of our state tests. And all of this is recent data. This is all 2013. And the next slide, there we go. Very proud to tell you that Memorial Middle School and our high school have been named this year's Schools of Distinction. That's based on state tests primarily. And Newsweek has ranked PHS in the top 3% of high schools nationwide. So what about college? Again, this is class of 2013. Fully 91% of our students go on to college. Of those, 27% attend most competitive or highly competitive colleges. And I'll show you some names in a minute. Hold your cheers for the next slide. That's names of colleges. In addition to where they go to school, another important indicator that sometimes we don't think of is how successful our students are once they get there. And Region 15 has, for the past 5 years, engaged an independent educational research company that has looked at performance by the end of freshman year in college. And consistently, that the data that we received back, we actually didn't receive it. It went to this independent research company, and once the research company puts it together, presents it to the Board of Education, and that data has consistently shown that students have performed above the 3.0. It's been consistently 3.1 and 3.2. And I want to share with you, when you look at the anecdotal interpretation as well, from one of the most recent reports, it said in the words of the research company, documented with objective numeric data from the colleges and universities themselves, the outcomes for Region 15 are remarkable and enviable. Okay, here's a slide of the colleges. So let's take a look at some of those. If you really want to cheer, you can cheer. I mean, these are just beautiful, beautiful colleges. It's one of the reasons that I am so pleased to come to a district that has such a record of success with students. Boston College, Brandeis, Bucknell, Carnegie Mellon, William and Mary, Cornell, Dartmouth, Emory, Fairfield, GWU, Georgetown, Harvard, MIT, Quinnipiac, Trinity, Tufts, University of Connecticut, of course, and Notre Dame. That's about the size sample that I could fit on this slide and allow a little room for some photography that I thought you might like as well. So with that as background information, the budget process began for me very shortly after I arrived in October. And that process began first by my having individual meetings with each of our administrators. The purpose of those individual meetings was to conduct a line-by-line review of everything that was proposed within the budget. Okay, that's your assurance that everything that's in the budget was vetted and looked at responsibly. We also routinely we do it every year, we do a review of student enrollment. That review is not only by total student enrollment, but even more importantly for us, we look at that review, we review the student enrollment by grade level and by school. Because if, whatever number, if we have 15 students fewer, the likelihood of 15 students all being in the same grade level or all being in the same school is very low. So what we do have to look at is where the enrollment breaks. to see if we can find any efficiencies. So we do look at that every year, and I will show you how that impacts on the budget in another slide. We also consider any additional requests. These additional requests are things to grow our program, to develop. So because the more that we develop, the more that we can help our students and prepare them for their future, as I said, as opposed to just maintaining. And I am also pleased to say, and I thank you, we had over 900, it was, I believe, a little bit less than 900, close to 900 responses to our community budget survey. We have done this every year, I think, for the past few years. And we review that data and we use that as information to help us in guiding the budget planning process. And in the next slide, you will see a summary of a few of the questions on that survey. Oops, I think we have to go back one. There we go, thank you. So this is, on the left, are 3 questions. There were a lot of questions on that survey, but these are 3 questions that we asked about. We asked about how important do you think it is to have a smaller or reasonable class size, to have up-to-date technology, and to have advanced placement courses. And you will see by the data presented there, these are percentages of respondents in various categories. You will see some difference between those who have children in the school or those who teach or employed by the school district versus those who do not have children in the school. So there is some difference. However, overall, I think you'll see strong support for all 3 of those. And the full executive summary is on the district website, and later I will show you a slide that shows you visually where you can find that on the website. Okay? So now for the slide that you have been waiting for with bated breath. Before we look at this year's numbers, which are up there for you to see, I think it's also important to understand our numbers in terms of the history. And that history does include 2 years of a budget at 0% increase. Those 0% increases were possible to bring to the voters and were passed by the voters because during those 2 years we looked very intensely and made some very rigorous cost-cutting measures. Those rigorous cost-cutting measures allowed us to mitigate the effect of what we call fixed costs, costs to which we are obligated to pay for. They go up every year. That's energy, that's salary, it's electricity, it's the kinds of things that you know in your homes as well go up every year. So we were able to absorb that increase in fixed costs by finding some very, very deep efficiencies. We continue to apply those efficiencies. What has happened is that we have found so many of those efficiencies and we continue to apply them that it's getting increasingly difficult to find any more efficiencies to help us mitigate the effect of increasing costs. So the budget that I presented to the board on February 24th was a 3.92% increase. The current level of board discussion is at 3.67. And if one averages those numbers together over the past 4 years with the other 3 years that I have on the slide there, the 4-year average is either 1.62 or 1.69. Okay, so what were the considerations in developing the budget this year? And some of this I've mentioned already. The impact of the rigorous cost-cutting measures from the previous budgets, which again, still, we continue to apply those cost-cutting measures, and also the need to maintain the excellence of service that meets the standard that we have for our children and for our schools. And of course, the increasing fixed costs, which we are obligated to pay. Secondary budget drivers, you voted today on increasing some allocation to your pension fund for us, for the school district as well. We are required again, based on advisement of the actuaries, to add some money to our pension fund as well. So that was a cost we knew it was coming this year.